Hey guys, welcome to today's video. I've got my baby backpack as always. Today I thought I would start this homeschool content. You guys have been asking for a lot more homeschool content and I didn't really know where to start. So I thought the best place to start would be a Q&A. And then I could kind of get a feel for what you guys wanted to hear more of, and I could go into creating stuff for you that was, more specific to what you guys want to know. How I can help you guys, just to make it a little easier on me and hopefully you too. So we're gonna launch into a Q&A. I'm gonna take you around the house today, just answer some questions that I put up a question box on Instagram and asked you guys to let me know your homeschool questions. And so I've gotten quite a few, and so I'm gonna answer as many as I can. And we're just gonna go from there. So I've got a tea, I've got a baby, my other kids are busy and distracted, and I have a moment, so we're gonna start. Okay, so the first question, and I think the thing we should start with first, some of you guys are going to be new, so I want to just kind of tell you a little bit about our homeschool experience. So just right off the base, I'm not going to launch into a big backstory because if you are really interested, that's already on my channel under my homeschooling playlist. I'm sure you can find some more information about us. We've been homeschooling the entire time. My kids, I was gonna say my kids have never done public school, but we did have a trial at the beginning of this school year for my son. Again, there's a video on that, but that did not work for our family. And so my kids have been homeschooled since the beginning and most likely will be homeschooled to the end. Like I have said in the last couple videos where we mentioned homeschooling, we are kind of unschoolers at heart. We have a Waldorf-ish base for the early years, and I'm really passionate about that, but I'm not like super strict. I don't love very strict Waldorf, but I do love so much about it. We're very Waldorf inspired. And so we start there in the early years. And so that kind of naturally launched us into being unschooly. Now, unschoolers can get a bad rap, like that term. It's actually like a really tricky way to school, I find, because you have to be a very intentional hands-on parent. You're really going off, so let's use child-led learning instead. We are child-led unschoolers. So we have used curriculum because unschoolers can use a little bit of curriculum. It just means they don't follow one rigid way of schooling. So we don't do public school at home. We don't follow one specific curriculum. We take what we like, we dabble. Sometimes we don't do anything. Sometimes we do dabble in bookwork and sometimes we don't. All of that is unschooling. It's not following a specific framework or routine. You know what I mean? You can look this up and get more into it yourself. A lot of people can assume that unschooling means do nothing at all and just let your kids run free and not ever teach them anything. And some people definitely do that. It's not something that I agree with, and it's not something I choose for my own family and my own children. So we do unschooling in our way, just as every unschooler does unschooling in their way. Now, that being said, so my oldest is 14 and my youngest is this little guy right here. He's 8 months. So we have quite the age range. We have been homeschooling since preschool, and we've tried a lot of different methods along the way. We've tried so many things. So unschooling for us has looked different through the years for our family. But because I mentioned we are Waldorf based, we do follow rhythms. We really, really love rhythms. From schooling to homekeeping to the way we just flow in our week, we are rhythm based because that works for us and we find a lot of comfort in that. But it has looked different. We've used curriculum before. We've not used curriculum. We've used some of a curriculum. It's just changed a lot. And right now is what I'm going to be speaking from. What we're doing right now is we are currently not using curriculum. We might start with my oldest son a little bit, but we are currently not following any firm, strict curriculums. So the biggest question that we're going to roll into in a second is what does a typical day look like for us? And that can be different, but I'm definitely gonna have to do a homeschool kind of day in our life, except for those are hard for me because I feel like people are gonna judge. Not that I care about the judgment of people, but I feel like people are gonna look at that and be like, okay, that's what every day looks like. And when you're unschoolers, every day looks totally different, though we do follow a general loose rhythm. So every day kind of looks like us coming together in the morning for breakfast. He sees his sister right there who is pacing in front of me while I talk. Us coming together for breakfast, doing chores, doing our house reset, getting everything ready, and then my big kids go off and do their own things. So we are doing schoolwork technically, like we're doing more formal schoolwork sometimes, even though we're unschooling. So math is something we always keep in the rotation because I am under the impression that math is an important life skill. You kind of need to know a lot of math. All the math? No. A lot of math? Yes. Math and English, like grammar, writing, reading comprehension, just having really rich literature in their childhood is very important to me. So math and reading are always touched on. The other ones are easier to hit, you know? So they go off, and right now they're doing online schooling, mostly for their math and their grammar, reading comprehension. And then they have a bunch of other things that they're dabbling in, like they're both taking financial literacy courses at different levels because one is 14 and one is almost 11. So things like that are kind of what our day looks like. Then they kind of know what they are supposed to do every day. And then the afternoons are largely spent in doing child-led, like whatever they're interested in. So my daughter, for example, she has guinea pigs. She suspects her newest edition could potentially be pregnant, and so she's doing so much research, and I'm really proud of her for stuff like that. But she's also doing high school courses, so she's researching those, and she's working on credits. So she is more academic focused right now because she's doing high school stuff, and because of the goals she wants to achieve, that just is what the requirement is, to jump through the hoops that she needs to jump through to get to where she wants to go. So she's spending a lot of her time researching about stuff like that. She's also doing a lot of, it doesn't matter what she's doing specifically. The point is they go off and they kind of do their own things. I keep tech allowances low during the bulk of the day so that they get bored enough to pursue interests and use their brains and do things that they like. So some days we go on field trips. When the weather is warmer, we're meeting up with friends, and they have classes through the week with our homeschool community and out in the community as well. Okay, if you see me looking down, it's just because I jot down notes and your questions so I don't ramble too long and kind of keep myself a little bit structured. A lot of questions I got were asking about, like, how on earth do I manage homeschooling a high schooler and then a fifth grader while having toddlers and babies? Like, how do you manage all these different grades and all these different levels? Before, we did use curriculum, and the curriculum we love, if we go back to curriculum, the one we usually reach for is called Blossom and Root. It's nature-based, it's very hands-on, there's a lot of options. It's kind of, it's really easy if you just really need some structure and you don't feel like the unschooly approach works for you in this season of life. I definitely recommend Blossom and Root. It's the curriculum I have. I have all of the grades, and I can pull it out whenever I want. And now we can use it almost as like oh, hey, we're gonna do that like astronomy unit. Let's do that. That's fun. And we do it like that. So again, our rhythm, I keep it here. This rhythm is a little bit out of date because we've now shuffled to accommodate my daughter's new high school goals. So things are a little bit different, but for example, we usually start with morning math. Like, everybody goes and like does some math for a little bit. Like, I can go through this, but I don't feel like this maybe is the most helpful thing right now, since this is not actually what we're following to a T. Every day kind of looks like math and some sort of language arts, some hands-on and handwork stuff. We're doing a lot of art, we're doing a lot of crafting, we're doing, like, each day has its own theme, baking day, painting day, we all do it, and I do it with the kids. So that kind of keeps us all together. And then it's when we're doing math or English or whatever, that's when my kids can break off. And now that they're bigger, when they were a little bit in those middle elementary years, I did rely heavily on curriculum, and we used curriculum, and that worked really well for us in that stage of life. It was easier for us to come together at the table and me to kind of set up my oldest kid and then be like, okay, you know what you're doing, get started. And then I could work on like a subject, and I would break the subjects into days. And so for us, we kind of we're kind of utilizing the fifth day now, but we're schooling 4 days a week. and then we would get all of our school done, and then Friday would kind of be a flex day. And when the weather warms up, we definitely go back to that because we have a homeschool social meetup on Fridays, so we're usually off doing that. So we kind of keep that as like library day and like go off and do things with friends and things like that. The reason I did this was because it was easier for me to balance all of the grades and all of the ages. And then the way I structure our day, even though we are less structured right now, it's still very similar. So in the mornings from about 9 to 1 o'clock, we have a break for lunch, or sometimes we just wait until we're done until have lunch after about 1 o'clock. But from 9 to 1, that's our learning chunk. We do not schedule anything during that time. We are not doing extracurriculars during that time unless it's like something like a field trip or whatever, we're taking that day off. Boundaries are really, really important if you want to get your school done. It can be really easy to get lost in the my kids need to socialize. There are so many opportunities, especially where I live. I know the community is very robust in other places. There are so many classes, courses, social meetups, hangouts that you can join. Sometimes you can even do too much where all you're doing is social stuff and there's not actually a lot of space or time left for the academics if that's what you're focusing on. So the balance is really important, and holding boundaries is also really important around that. So that's our boundary, is from 9 to 1 o'clock. We're not doing anything else. Now that I have older kids that I can set them up and be like, this is what you're doing today. If you have a question, come let me know, but like go off and do your thing, and they can both go do that because they're 11 and 14. And now I can take like a morning meeting, or I can have a friend over for tea, or I have a baby play date one day a week. And they all come over in the morning, and I can do that when my big kids are off doing their schoolwork. So that really works for balancing it with me. And then the afternoon is left for everybody to kind of do their own thing. And I expect my kids to be doing something with that time, like pursuing their own interests for reading, like reading for fun, or pursuing an interest that they're doing. My daughter uses this time for extra stuff with her high school coursework. She is either using the extra time for gathering her credit courses, or doing whatever she's doing, or maybe there's a special interest that she's into. My son uses this, or they both do this. They're very artistic kids. Lots of art happens in the afternoon. Just kind of more child-led. Do something that calls your soul, but make sure you're not just being a zombie to tech during that time. So just to summarize that, we have our core rhythm that we follow. So we have school happens, so breakfast happens at the same time every day, and then we do chores, and then school happens between that 9 to 1 p.m. block for us on X days a week. We do it during the weekdays because that lines up with my husband's schedule. And then we have these anchoring activities every day that ground the day and bring us back together to connect as a family. So those would be meal times, group chore times, if we're gonna do a family activity that day, stuff like that. And then this gives me a chance to have the older kids work independently while I do things with the little ones. So we're gonna be starting preschool activities and stuff pretty soon. We do I use what preschool curriculum? I use an early years of either Blossom and Root, and I also have a Waldorf early years curriculum where it's songs and engaging stories, but we just start being more intentional with that learning time. And we're gonna start that soon with Zaggy here. So we're gonna be back at that. Now, if anybody is like, okay, but how does it work if you have kids close in age? I just want to give my understanding. I used to run a day home, and then I've dabbled in homeschooling other people's kids as well. So I get it. It can be a lot. We've tried, like I said, we've tried a lot of things over the years, and I have gathered a lot of experience. Now, sometimes you're just gonna have to, if you dedicate the morning to crunch work where your younger ones just play, maybe you're able to throw the baby on your back or your front if you have a little baby, and you can just take turns. Even if your kids are probably 4th or 5th grade and under, you could probably have all the kids go off in different directions and focus on one kid at a time at the table for an hour. And if you could do that, then you can do the next kid in the next hour, and that kid gets to go off. But at least you're doing dedicated learning time, whatever works for you. If your kids are closer in age, you can group topics together. You want some tea? You can maybe group lessons together and then just adjust it if you're following a curriculum to those kids' levels. Read alouds are a really great example of this. We still enjoy read alouds together, but now it's more of a family anchoring activity than it is a academic need. But when they were younger, we would just read the same book together, or I would use bedtime stories as a time to read their school book. So if we were reading through a chapter book and we have, let's say, I would break it up so we had 2 chapters every day, and then I think one day we needed to there was usually one day where we needed to read 3 chapters. And so I would save that to spend that individual time with my kids at night, because they had staggering bedtimes or whatever. I would just spend like 30 minutes, 20 minutes with each kid reading through the chapters together. And then that would be their bedtime story, and it was kind of 2 birds, 1 stone. So there are a lot of different ways you can do this to balance, but also just know that flexibility and being able to adapt when life happens is part of homeschooling, and part of why I love unschooling personally, because for me, when we miss a day of the curriculum or we have a weird week, sometimes I get attached to like, okay, there are this many weeks of school that we have to accomplish in a year. No, you don't. Who says? Who says? There's no rules here. Well, for most of us. If you skip a week, if you skip one of the books, if you skip a unit, it's not going to be a detriment to your kids learning in elementary school. Like it doesn't matter. So when life happens, that's okay. When I have a baby, we all take some time off. The 40 days of rest, most of that time we are not doing school. Now with my bigger kids, I would keep them on a similar rhythm just because they can go off and do their own. And this is using like online resources like Khan Academy, things like that. All those different websites where you can create a profile for your kid, and they have all of that stuff to even just keep a spine, so you can kind of just adjust for what season of life you are currently in, and just give yourself so much grace, because it's not easy to dabble, and know that you will forever be adjusting and changing. I think that helps if you know that in advance. My favorite thing about rhythms, and why I'm such a huge advocate of rhythms, and you hear me talking about rhythm all the time, is because rhythms give us structure without being rigid. When you have lots of kids, rigidity doesn't work. Structure is a must though. It's just enough flow for everyone to thrive. Now that I'm answering questions, I think this is going to be a 2-part video, because this is just going to get really long, but I don't want to spare any details. I want you guys to feel like you can come downstairs and go in, unless you don't want to be seen in the background of the video.
I've already been seen, I'm just waiting for you.
Oh, hold on 1 second, okay? I don't want you guys to miss anything or feel like I didn't fully explain things, so I'm going to take my time chatting with you about these. But remember, this is just a base to start us off. Please, down below, use that space in the comments to tell me, okay, I would love to see more of this. Can you go into more detail about this thing? Tell me what you want to see, because for me, this is normal. And I don't realize that this piece could be interesting or valuable to you guys. So just let me know, communicate, and I will give you all the content that I can muster on homeschooling throughout the next couple months here. Okay, I'm gonna go off and get my workout in while the baby is sleeping. This is what I mean about balance. My toddler is playing. My son is over there on the table working on a homeschool thing. My daughter has been doing her chores, and I think it's wrapped up her homeschool for the day. Yeah, yep. And I'm gonna go fit in my workout really quick. And you just do what you can, fit it in where it works for you. All right, I'm making some banana muffins for an afternoon snack today. And while we do this, I'm gonna tackle another question. So the one we are going to talk about next is, how do I fit in teaching with all of my other responsibilities? I think that's what a lot of Chihuahua barking. I think a lot of people struggle with the balance of like maintaining this teacher role with motherhood and homemaking and all of the other things we have to do. But if we reframe that and you begin to understand that teaching is less about formal lessons, you'll have to forgive my constant interruptions, but it's more about being present and modeling curiosity and creating this love of learning. How can we change our perspective? Because a lot of times we have to unschool ourselves, like deschool. we're so school as a public system minded that to homeschool, a lot of times we have to let go of a lot of the things we thought were right. And how can you make learning go from a chore to a natural curiosity that your child has and carries with them for the rest of their life? Because I think the best set up kid is one that is naturally curious about learning and naturally pursues learning on their own. Some of the best and brightest minds in the world just had a thirst for knowledge and a curiosity of life and learning. So I just want to say that because I think that's an important distinction to make when we're talking about balancing teaching. Homeschool and learning becomes life. It is part of your life. Now, I'm going to talk about more practical tips in a second, but that is something important to learn. It's not like, okay, I have to put the teacher hat on and now I'm a teacher and we're doing school at home, at the table, we're replicating public school system. Unless that absolutely works for you, then you're probably not into my content anyway, but you kind of have to throw that away. You're not replicating school at home. You're doing homeschooling. Okay, into the practical things. This is why I have things. I am not just saying this in the last 2 videos to promote these things because I'm horrible at promoting my own stuff. But the reason I made a homemaking rhythm and a meal planning thing printable that I use right here, they're filled out. I haven't put in my daily chores, but there they are on my fridge. Those things help me stay structured because it's not that homeschooling is necessarily so hard and the balance is hard. Honestly, it's usually the discipline of the mother that is the biggest factor to like how unbalanced or balanced the home becomes. And I don't get this right all the time. Life happens. There are days and weeks where we're really off of things. But if we come back and we dedicate ourselves to diligent homemaking, to diligent mothering, to diligent homekeeping, that makes everything else in our life a lot easier. And that is why I created those rhythms. Now, if you're interested in having your own, I will have those in the links below and you can go ahead. It's as cheap as a cup of coffee, so it's not anything crazy. Things like that do help keep you organized enough to be able to fit everything in your day and flow through more easily. If you're not worried about this checklist in your head that is totally unreasonable and enormous because you haven't been able to have the mental space to break them down into bite-sized pieces every day, then that's going to be really tricky for you and your house is going to constantly feel maybe chaotic. So things like following a cleaning schedule or a cleaning rhythm or whatever you want to call it, who's ever you want to follow, can really help make you feel balanced in teaching your kids and keeping your home. And things like following our daily rhythm. The daily rhythm allows me to include my little kids in with the big kid tasks. Or I can set the little kids up with an activity. I can throw the baby on my back if I really need to focus on something and I can't watch him roam. I can set the toddler up with a toddler activity. I keep little small things, like I keep toddler activities. This isn't going to apply to all of you because not everybody has toddlers, but like I keep things up high on shelves, puzzles, busy books, things like that I only pull out during certain times that I need them to work. Like last resort for me would be like a little bit of screen time. I didn't take it away, you ate it. Here. Like a special basket of toys that they don't get all the time, something that would be special and interesting. We break out some paints. I would rather have a little section of my table become an absolute disaster and give me 20 minutes of peace with the big kids than have to try and juggle that. So just utilizing certain little tools and tricks like that also really help me. Sorry, my dog is barking in the background. He is an evil little chihuahua that we love dearly, but my daughter has a friend over this afternoon, so he's just gonna kind of do that here and there. He's ancient, we love him, but he is annoying. Okay, another thing is we cannot forget how life skills are also learning. Remember, we're not replicating public school at home. So gardening, housework, cleaning, cooking, all those things are life skills that your kids are going to need when they go out on their own. And those are all very important things to incorporate, and those count as learning. Learning doesn't always have to look like school at the table or a work page or something, right? Like we learn valuable things by going out into the world and putting our hands into the work and learning that way. Involving your kids makes it so much easier to accomplish all these things. And maybe you've never really involved your kids up until this point and it seems like a chaos mess, and that very well could be the case for a little while, but once your kids and your family get used to that, then you actually get genuine help. Obviously, I have older kids and younger kids, so I have a little bit of a different balance. Like, my older kids are genuinely very helpful, and so if you have younger kids that aren't quite there yet, you will get to a time where they are genuinely helpful and they do a job almost equal to an adult or equal to an adult. That comes with time, but this plays back into what I always say, that done is better than perfect. So including your kids can really help. Do you know what's better than a perfectly swept floor? That thing that was spilled actually not being on the floor anymore. So like including your kids whenever you can definitely does help both them learn. You're spending time together. They're learning how to take care of themselves in their own homes and their own lives when they leave the nest. And also you're getting some help. So that is a big key too. Now, in doing that, you do have to let go of perfection. It's not going to be a perfect job like we just talked about. So that can be a self-practice though. That's on us, right? As the mother, we need to let go of the perfectionism. And it's not an easy thing to do, to let go of that, but it is a necessary thing. If you want to have a lot of kids and you want to homeschool them, I really do think that it is a necessary thing. You can't be a perfectionist. You can't have your cake and eat it too. Done has to be better than perfect if you want to do a lot. My point of this entire thing is homemaking and homeschooling blend together very naturally if you let life be the teacher. A little bit cheesy, but it's true. Okay, I got several questions. Ignore the background noise as always. This is as quiet as it's gonna get for you guys. Lots of questions about homeschooling with younger kids in the house and how the heck do you balance that. So my first tip to you guys is you gotta keep your expectations at a moderate to low level. You cannot, this is not the season for going out and doing all the extracurriculars and having the perfect curriculum and being able to accomplish all of the things. If you can do that while you have little ones, then more power to you. I admire you. Please film a video and tell us all how you do it. I am not one of those people. I'm not that great at it. This is not a perfect season. So if your expectations are within a reasonable level, then you're setting yourself up for more success. But regardless, it is super challenging. Like, it's not something that's really easy to have a baby on your hip while you're homeschooling older kids. This season definitely requires a lot of grace. The sweet spot though is when you can set your older kids up with some stuff. So having a good plan about what you want, like if you're doing curriculum, for example, making sure you've planned out your stuff and know what you're doing that day so that you can kind of set your kids up, do your little lesson, do whatever you need, and then hopefully they can work independently, where then you can turn to your little ones or cooking or whatever you need to do. Another big tip that I feel like a lot of people maybe don't talk about is getting your babies and little ones and toddlers used to independent play. Independent play near you, where you are in the general area, but not constantly needing you 100% of the time for entertainment is huge. All of my babies, all of my toddlers have been able to have independent playtime. The way I am getting this question filmed right now with no baby on my back is that my baby is right in front of me right here playing independently on the floor. My toddler is between the stairs and right here playing independently with his toys. It's huge that you can get things done without having your baby Velcro to you all the time. But I do have a Velcro baby, so I get that. He's coming closer. You get pockets of independent play and you have to take advantage of them. We talked about those anchor points in a question earlier, and those come back into play again. Those points where you come together as a family a couple times through the day to bring everybody back together. Those really help the balance when homeschooling multiple grades and ages as well. Then, like we spoke about, and like I've been saying, and like you've been seeing me wearing my baby wearing is a lifesaver. I don't know how people don't do it. I would not be able to get almost anything I get done without being able to wear my baby. And after 6 months, when my babies can sit up and have great head control and they sit up really well, and I can start putting them on my back, that is a game changer for me. So baby wear your baby if you have a baby or toddler. I do wear my toddlers too. Things like obviously the independent play we talked about, when the weather is appropriate outside, outdoor time, things like that really help. Your big kids can do school outside while you play with your little ones, or everybody can go out for an outside break. Busy baskets are huge for me. Toys that they don't get access to all the time, puzzles, things like that. I have quiet book activities like busy books and things like that tucked away, and we pull those things out: Play-Doh, paint, things like that are saved for when I need them occupied, when I need my toddler occupied while I'm doing something else. So when you don't give them access to those things all the time, they stay special. And then when they're special, they'll engage their interest for longer periods of time. So in general though, when you are homeschooling multiple grades and you have babies or toddlers in the house, it's less about getting everything done and having that perfect balance, and more about the ability to have flexibility and grace for yourself, for your kids, for everyone. Okay, I'm gonna answer one more question here, then I need to start making dinner, and I'll start a part 2 video because there are more questions that I would like to get to that I didn't get a chance to get to in this video. So hopefully you are enjoying this, and you can just look forward to another one. I'll probably post this in I'll try and have it out in 2 days. Okay, another question I got more than once was how to find the right curriculum for your kids. And as much as I would love to be like, this is the formula to find the right curriculum for your kids, it's totally gonna depend on you, the type of homeschooler you are, whether or not you even like curriculum, because you don't have to use any curriculum at all. For me, when I needed some anchoring points, I needed something that I could open. This was when I was running a day home, is when I really started using the curriculum. We really like Blossom and Root because it's flexible. But honestly, if you're really married to the idea of curriculum, it's going to be a lot of trial and error. You have to dabble. Some curriculums will have samples. Talk to your friends, talk to other homeschoolers, see what they like. Specifically, find people who have similar lifestyles. What is the pace of their life? Are they a busy sports family and they're always out? Well, that curriculum might not be the right fit for somebody who's home a lot. Are they very nature-based, and is that important? Or do they stay inside, and are they very, very dedicated to bookwork? You need to ask these questions of yourself, like what lifestyle? And then ask the people who have similar lifestyles to you what curriculum they like, or what kind of school methods they're using. And you might be able to find more connections that way, in my opinion, than just blindly asking everybody, because then you're gonna get that really overwhelming mass of answers. And then you could be like me, who pulls from ideas. I don't like having to follow, I don't like feeling like I have to follow a certain curriculum, a certain set of guidelines. For me, life, and especially life with 4 kids, and especially life with all these age gaps, it requires us to be flexible. It requires us to change what we're doing here and there. So for me, I take what I like and I leave what I don't, like everything. Like you take my videos, everything like that. Take what you like, leave what you don't. It's okay. We love Waldorf-ish. We like a lot of things about Waldorf. I don't love some things about Waldorf, so I'm taking what I like, rhythms, open-ended toys, things like that, and I leave what I don't. With a curriculum, if I really feel like I would like it, then maybe I will purchase it, because it's very easy to just spend so much money purchasing all these curriculums that collect dust and you don't actually need because it doesn't suit your kid. We have a neurospicy household, all of us. Every single person so far in our family is a little bit neurospicy, or a lot of bit neurospicy. So by neurospicy, I mean neurodivergent, but we hate that word. So that makes what works for us different. We need movement. We need outdoor time. We need hands-on learning. We need bright, colorful, interesting, engaging stories. My kids do not do the dry stuff. They can't get through it. So that alters what works for us too. So I think a good place to start would be choosing topics and finding like schooling topics, or maybe units, or whatever, if that's what you want to use, on things your kids are already interested in. Like if you can put a kid who hates math but loves baking, and you can make your baking really mathy, or maybe you can find a board game or do something, get them starting to play something like Warhammer, or like some math board game, sure, but like D&D or Warhammer, something that's like dicey and mathy. That can be a way to open up that math doesn't always have to suck, and then you can develop that love of learning. So if you chase your kids' curiosities, I feel like you have a way better chance of the knowledge actually sticking and becoming part of them in their life. But I am the queen of keeping it simple, so I really prefer open-ended things. If something is like, you have to do this on Monday, you have to do blah 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 blah, no, that's not for me. Because I am in the situation I am with having kids all over the board, I have to have things that are open-ended, flexible, and leave room for like creative movement, which is why Unschooly is kind of how we always come back. Even when we've used curriculum, we've strayed from unschooling, we keep coming back. But my perspective on unschooling now to when we started are very different. An unschooling day back when I had a 5-year-old is way different than an unschooling day now that I have a 14-year-old. So, you know, you gotta ebb and flow with homeschool. And something else that maybe feels like a failure, and maybe we don't talk about this enough, homeschooling veterans. I don't even know if I'm a homeschooling veteran yet. I don't know, like, whatever. People who have been homeschooling for a long time, we are constantly reevaluating. It is very rare that you will find a homeschooler who doesn't have to reevaluate what works for their family all the time. I almost take it seasonally, like weather seasons. You might have to reevaluate every few months and make little tweaks because you are not a system. You are a family. You are not a robot. You are a growing, living organism as a family. You are a nervous system. You are people with many different needs, and reevaluation is not only necessary, but I think it's healthy and very, very normal. So don't make, if you're like, oh, we just made a plan and now I'm like reevaluating again and changing something, that's not a failure. That is normal, and that's what you should be doing because it means you're an attentive mom and you are paying attention and you are following those curiosities and you're doing what works for you and leaving what doesn't work behind. Or maybe something worked and it didn't work before and now it works better in this season of life. That's okay too. So just remembering that curriculum is just a tool. If it works for you, that's great. But if it doesn't, let it go. Let it go. Who cares? Let it go. Okay, we're gonna stop there and come back on Friday for part 2, and I will do another video talking about all the rest of the questions, or at least the main ones that I got, and we'll chat more. So I hope you guys are enjoying this. Like I said below, make sure in the comments below you tell me if you want to see any, like, more of something, if you want a whole video on something in particular, you want me to go deeper into a topic. Let me know those things. Yeah, we gonna start making dinner. It's hard. I know a lot of you guys want like a homeschool day in the life. I have to figure out how I would film that. It's hard because I don't want, like, my kids' privacy is important to me. So I don't know how to film those while not showing you like exactly what they're working on, or like maybe my one kid doesn't want you to see a close-up of their writing or something. You know what I mean? So like, I think a lot of parents don't necessarily think about that, so those are hard for me, but I will, if that's what you guys really, really want to see, I will try and do my best to figure out a creative way to film like a day in our life. But anyway, let me know, and thank you guys for tuning in today. Thank you for being with me, and I hope this was informative. I hope it was helpful. I hope it was at least insightful, and we will see you in my next one. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh. Do you want milk? Yeah, you want milk? Okay. Okay, bye guys.